Welcome to Make Break. This is Collin Young of 100 Moons.
Ooh,
um, how are you doing today?
not bad. How are you doing today?
Better than the last time we tried to get together.
Fair.
Yeah, but I'm really happy that we finally did. Um, it's been a challenging season for uh, not just myself. I think for all of us, we're just kind of seeing more and more that things are getting even crazier in general for all creators, not just musicians. I mean, music in particular is pretty wild. It's been very challenging. So I had the first question, which is very on brand. What is the one thing that you are trying to make that will hopefully let you break through?
Uh, I don't know how much I'm gonna break through, but just a simple goal of making rock and roll. I yeah, just always just been concentrating on making songs that hopefully, I don't know, feel like something. It'd be great if they feel like something to someone else. But I guess, I don't know, it's not super planned out in terms of like bigger scope to it, but just trying my best to make the songs themselves inhabit their own space, whatever that might be. Been through many different projects, so it's always sort of like a different goal with what the space it's meant to inhabit is, with the good feelings, bad feelings, the apocalypse, sadness, joy, just anything that just sort of feels like a tangible feeling and not just instruments sounding like instruments do. So it's kind of what the goal's always been.
So the feeling that you're trying to go for on this upcoming album, because you have an upcoming album.
Yes, I did.
What's the name of the album, first of all?
The album's called Black Avalanche.
Nice. And where does that is that representative of the feeling that you're going for on this particular album?
Uh, I guess I guess that could be said. Um, I mean, hopefully it's abstract enough that it can mean whatever it means to whoever's listening to it. But I guess like as a selection of words, it feels like that's bad. It's a black avalanche. It feels sort of like a little ominous, and it doesn't really even make sense because that's not the color that avalanches are. So it's just sort of, uh, I guess, an ominous presence is upon us. Is, I guess, sort of what that was meant to invoke. Um, but also in a way that it can mean whatever you want it to.
It feels like the feeling that it sounds like to my ear in terms of that image that's being conjured is like a heavy sludgy mudslide of a wall of noise that's being just going to wash away everything in its path. Is that like a fair assessment of
Yeah,
like is that as advertised for the for the sound you guys are going for in this?
yeah, I think so. Like, I don't think that that's like if you're describing our sound, where we are 100% of the time. But I guess that it's I guess like an all ever on the horizon thing, and that might be part of the metaphor that it's you can be standing over here and everything's chill. And I think sometimes in our music we are in a chill headspace, but then here comes the avalanche, and then uh walls of whatever are upon you. So yeah, I can see that being appropriate.
It feels also kind of like very current. I mean, excuse the expression. It's very much like of its time. I guess like every generation feels like it's in the craziest time ever. Like things are crazier than ever. I think everybody has been saying that for like probably a long time, like many hundreds of years, possibly thousands.
Mhm.
So I do feel as though like it's it's not that it's unprecedented, but you know, there is some unprecedented levels of stuff. For you as a musician, just gonna pause there for a sec because like you and I have known each other for actually quite a long time.
Mhm.
Um, in fact, it was you that recorded my band's albums, plural. And so just with that out of the way, like I know your process, I know your approach both to music from a professional recording production standpoint, mixing, etc., and as a professional musician, because I've also followed you and seen you play in a number of bands over a number of years. So just with that, acknowledging that out of the way, um, I want to see where you're at now with respect to like when you are making the soundscapes that you are looking for now. Um, what do you wish would just go away? Just like what are the obstacles that you are seeing or the pain points that you're seeing in the process of writing and or uh, performing music that you wish would just fuck off already?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you do that no one made you do. So obviously, you're doing it out of your own, entertainment in the process. So I mean, that's why I'm making. I mean, like at least like writing songs and making songs for myself is just because the process of doing that is amusing to me. So I don't really have any gripes with the process itself. That's why I'm doing it. I enjoy it. Um, I guess the gripes are there's a whole world around that of you gotta eat and you gotta pay rent. So you gotta work jobs and you gotta do things to make money. And that could be speaking to what you're saying about the world being a challenging time right now, like just the whole what we have to do to kind of get up and exist and be able to feed ourselves is is its own struggle. So I mean, like with the way that where I am in life, you, the things I do for money are not the music making. The music making is the thing that I'm doing to distract myself from the things that I do to make money. So it would be wonderful if I could just wake up and make art and the world would rain money on me. Like that would be what I think we all want as a species. I
Yeah,
think
that's fair.
that's what we'd
Yeah.
all like to do is just wake up, create, and then the money falls on our lap. So uh, that's not the case. So I don't know, but yeah, but the whole process of making it, I do it because I enjoy it. And then from there, I guess I don't know. You got to sell it, or I guess you don't have to, but I choose to, and that's its own set of grievances. But again, that's sort of like external to the actual creation process. The creation is that's the fun part. Everything else sort of starts to become work for one reason or another.
That's interesting because like the lessons that other musicians might be able to take from that is what I'm hearing, and that's where my mind immediately goes, which is like I'm getting a sense of a level of stoicism, which I've always known you to have, about things rather than sit around and moan about it. You've always been the type to sort of crack on, get on with it. I think it would be interesting to see your thoughts on, do you feel like people are more uh willing to complain rather than help themselves, or are they same as it's ever been? I mean, from your perspective, are you seeing people get hung up on things that they maybe shouldn't be?
In terms of the music business specifically, or about?
Yeah, I think music
Yeah.
specifically.
Um, yeah, music specifically, it's a weird thing because I just I don't crap to say as an artist, but like you 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 don't really have the right to complain. Like if you're out there making art and no one's giving you anything for it, boo hoo, like cry me a river. Like it's again, it's like if you are starting that, like you're doing it for yourself, you're doing it to amuse yourself, then nobody really owes you anything for that at the end of the day. It is excessively difficult to turn that into a career. But like, hasn't it always been? Like, I don't know, like it's like I know it's like a lot, like it's better and worse in a lot of ways. Like if you look at the numbers, there's less money probably now in the music industry than, I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if that's true. I don't know if the music industry itself has less money, but there's some big walls in front of artists actually like making money off of things. And I know there's very select few that do, but there's always been a very select few that do. Like I don't think it was easy to make it in the 80s. I think that there's been starving artists forever. Um, so yeah, I don't know if it's better or worse. But then I also don't know if you have the right to complain about that because you're in a situation of privilege if you can even carve out the time to do it for fun for nothing. I don't know. Like again, like idealistically, it would be great if we could all get a paycheck for doing what amuses us. But I don't know if that's really anything that you can complain about too loudly.
Well, it sounds like, and that's interesting because like yeah, there's a lot of people that love to moan, myself included, obviously, but that's because just I lived in England for 5 years, so what else are they going to do, right? I'm kidding, but also I'm not. Uh, but okay, so then in terms of like, it sounds like one of the big lessons to be had is in terms of what people can come away from this learning is that they aren't necessarily owed something. And obviously, people can advocate for themselves, but like start with the right expectation in mind, which is like if you're doing this for the love of it, then that needs to be front and center. I mean, I'm not trying to create a straw man out of that. I'm trying to make sure that I have represented what you've said well
Yeah,
enough.
that's
It's fair. Okay.
where I'm going with that.
Okay. And so for you now, I know that one of the hardest things I hear from people is like the promoting of said music, like the selling portion of it. Like once the artistry is done, so to speak, which is kind of funny because we'll get to that in a minute, but the quote unquote like artistry meaning recording of it is done because then you got to actually have to perform it live. It's a performative art. Um, the biggest gripe I generally tend to find is with promoting it, which comes in a multitude of different forms. So, like, there's this is one of those platforms where you are
Mm.
promoting it in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, it doesn't need to be so low hanging fruit where it's like, welcome to the morning show. We've got, Tom York here. We're
Right.
promoting the next album, which, by the way, they had to do constantly all the time. Made a documentary
And
on
they
how much that
complained
sucked.
bitterly about it. They
Yeah,
they were
very
very
bitterly.
open about hating that part of the process.
100%. And
Yeah.
I've seen some of those interviews that they had to go through. I can kind of see it. Yeah, I get it.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's it. Is like I think things suck. Yeah, boohoo, like you said, and I agree. But also, like, what can you do that you draw enjoyment from? I'm guessing that social media posting isn't exactly a point of um, a fun pastime, let's say, but
No.
no, that's fair. And again, that's one of the biggest gripes is that musicians are like, I'm not a creator, I'm not an influencer. Fuck, I'm a musician. I don't want to be
Mhm.
on Instagram or TikTok or any of the
Mm.
other dozen or so platforms. What's interesting is that you are living congruently with what you're saying, which, wild when someone is not a complete hypocrite. But I guess what I'm kind of driving at now is that, like, another big gripe of what musicians are doing these days and where they're experiencing the most pain is performing live. You guys are performing live quite often. You've got a pretty good schedule. You guys are staying active. Obviously, you guys are not in a position where you can just go on like long multi-week tours at a time. You guys aren't kids in a van. You guys are adults with adult jobs, and you actually have to, you know, make ends meet.
Mm.
Um, but all that said, you guys are still doing like dozens of shows in a year. So I guess my question really is like, when it comes to promoting yourself, do you see playing shows as one of the, how do you see playing shows in terms of weighting, in terms of the effectiveness of that versus the rest of the stuff that goes with promoting, like press or publicity or socials or anything like that? How does that stack up against those?
It's everything's part of it. I think you got to just sort of chip away at it from all of the angles, and there are small rewards at the end of all of those. And I think playing shows is one of those. Like I mean, I think in anything in that, and the level of band we're at, the effort to reward system is stacked on effort. Like you do have to, like playing shows on our level is there's a lot that it takes out of you to do it, to just sort of like drag all your gear to gig, and we're setting everything us up ourselves, and doing everything ourselves. So there's a lot that goes into that, and the pull from it can be disheartening at times. Like there's sometimes not most people at gigs. I don't know if you win over a fan every time as you're supposed to. Like sometimes it's just uh, not the most packed room, and I with some people that you recognize, so they're friends, and it's not going to really mean anything at the end of the day. So like sometimes the payoff from that can be less than you'd want it to be, but it still does, like it does do something. Like it does put your name in people's mouths and people's heads, and it makes you exist in a physical capacity that just helps it all like be more real, I guess. And I think that's what a lot of the things that you're doing are, is just continuing to do stuff to be like, hey, we're real, we exist. And then hopefully people see that, and can sort of take in a sense that like it's real. Like I guess one thing I'm thinking of, like when we started as the band, to kind of go into a little bit of backstory, it was like the whole band sort of came out of a pandemic project between me and Jen. Jen is my wife, for those who don't know. So we were just like living in our apartment together, as we all did in the pandemic, stuck indoors. And so we kind of built the project at home, kind of with my home recording abilities. And so like we made it initially, and then like in that, like we did our first album like that, and then we put it out, and on some level, because it's just sort of like the two of us working on our apartment, like we made this ultimately digital thing that we put into the digital space, and then we just like flew it out there, go fly. And I feel like it was under received, because I don't think that there's anything like tangibly real about its existence. Like it's like, to me, I'm like, it's music, it's a record, everyone go love it, it's music. But I don't think that it feels real enough. Like if someone's just like, oh, another digital song, like this could, I mean, it was slightly before AI, but it's like, oh, this could be AI for all I know. Like it's just intangible thing. So as we've kind of developed as the band, and we've added the members of the band, and we've started playing live, and the new record has a lot more from the other members of the band. And then also like social media it's all kind of like uh, proof and receipts that like that you exist, that you're real people doing a real thing. And I think that that's uh what we're trying to push to get out there, like I guess both through live shows and through the social. I mean, the socials also are just like footage of the live shows, but it's just sort of just receipts that we are humans doing a thing, not that this just sound sort of created itself, which is just something I think you have to remind people of, because it's so easy to just to be dismissive of just like, oh, another song. So that's, I guess, what we're trying to do with that. And the rewards are few and far between, but you got to keep kind of like chipping away at every angle you can, I guess.
That physical receipt, the receipts of true authorship, that's a really interesting one, because I feel more and more and see more and more that there are more and more authors. I know I'm switching industries here, but that's kind of my main thing is writing right now. Well, when I say right now, I mean, it's been it's been like that for a while, but I see them like actually sharing more and more of their notes and outlines, sketches, worlds, um, because they're afraid that like people are gonna just default to, is this just like chat or Claude or something? Like, if you just, you just fed this in, is this a prompt? Like, what, you know what I mean? And that's,
Yeah,
it's scary, because like that is absolutely a possibility for music as well.
yeah.
Same with art, same with all creative endeavors, which is great as long as we could automate, like fully automate all creative endeavors and not work on, labor, manufacture, food, health. That's super awesome. Really happy that we were able to totally get those syndromes completely ass backwards. But regardless, um, I do think that like I have, I'm almost on board, but I have one thing that I'm thinking of that immediately struck me, was that ironically there could be, it feels like there's one intangible that helps ground the intangible, and that's a story or meaning or context. I feel like that's the thing that if you're able to like incept that somehow into someone's brain, that guarantees the best chance of it sticking and of people checking it out in the first place. So for instance, I've heard so many rumors of so many different bands that when someone is telling me, like, this is why word of mouth, by the way, is the most powerful in my opinion. It's because when I'm telling you something, if I'm going to show you a song, I'll be like, I know I know something about your personal preferences. I know something about mine. I know something about the way that we relate to each other. I know, for example, that you're probably going to be much more interested in the level of effort put into recording a production. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But like, maybe you're going to be a little bit less interested in like heavy ass breakdowns. Maybe you're going to be a little bit more interested in them. I don't know. But when I'm showing something to you in person, or at least in like conversation, there's going to be this like intangible need to sell it to you somehow. Because why else would we be talking about it? I'm not going to tell you about like, oh, there's this band that I kind of listen to sometimes and I don't really, I got nothing.
Yeah, right,
No one does
right.
that, right? Like
Yeah.
people want to like, they're like, oh, you got to listen to this because I'm listening to it and I really appreciate it, or I'm reading or enjoying it, whatever. So I think that the stories that we tell about music oftentimes take on a sort of mythology, because that's really super interesting. Like, for instance, I always think of examples like with the band Idols. I always think of that single that he pressed with his mother's ashes, because it had mother on it. He used some of Joe Talbot used some of his mother's ashes to press like 100 vinyl.
Didn't actually know that.
So
Learning
there you
that
go.
now.
So now you do, and now that's intriguing at the very least.
Hmm.
Maybe that offends your sensibilities, but I'm assuming if that offends somebody's sensibilities, then fuck them. They're not the target demo anyway.
Right.
He then also, I don't know if it was his mother's actual knickknacks or whatever, but for the video for that song was like had a whole table set up of like different tchotchkes and things.
I know the video, so that makes sense now.
And he was breaking it, and so and it was the song called Mother, and so that was during the brutalism. I like eras. I'm a sucker for it. So that's the story, and for me, that is why they were able to like stick in the minds of people, because that's something that they can all share and commiserate and talk about. And whatever stories you have going on about you, for instance, like it could be both good and bad. I mean, obviously, like not many of us listen to Lost Prophets now. Like that's not going to be.
We certainly talked about them more, though. I don't think I ever brought up Lost Prophets in conversation.
That's true.
Till that, so we got their name out there. Terribly.
For better or for absolutely for worse.
Absolutely worse.
Absolutely. So yeah, categorically not awesome. But there's so many cool stories out there. And so for me, that's the thing that I am just so like smitten with, is what are these stories? Why else do we write a press release? Right? We're trying to find the story. What's the angle? What's the perspective? How can I spin this? Like, it's almost like every publicist in the world is like secretly willing their client to go and do something outlandish or cool or interesting to make it seem like that much more captivating. All of that is to say, that was a lot of me putting stuff onto you. But the reason that I grounded that so much is because I wonder it could be a lot of pressure to be like, hey, so what's your story? Like, because that's hard. That's really hard. But does something come to mind right away?
Well, I mean, what comes to mind right away, and I do feel like kind of aware of that, and I guess what comes to mind that is, I've always felt like lacking in that. Like, I don't know if there is anything crazy, unique, or interesting about me. Like, I'm just like a guy in Canada that's just working on records because he likes it. Like, I don't know, like I totally hear that, and I wish there was some sort of like mythology, like some sort of larger than life detail, and I'm sure that would be very helpful trying to like sell it to people. But I feel like I'm kind of like, I mean, like my desire in this world is to be like, just to take the art for the art's sake. Like, I want to live in this like Wizard of Oz fantasy where I am the man behind the curtain and you pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, and you look at the great and powerful Oz, which is the art itself. And I just would like the art to just be out there doing its thing, and then nobody look at me. It's not interesting. So
that's actually, so that's,
yeah.
Sorry. That's really, that is an incredibly sincere and honest take on it, right? Like, it's like, I don't need to make up bullshit, right? Like, it's, yes, that's very nice. Like, whatever, insert random larger than life thing. But I think what you're looking for is let the music be the story there. That's interesting, because in that instance, then, if you had to point to the music itself, like the album, what the story of this album specifically would be, what would you say the story of that album is?
I'm going to be fucking difficult on that level as well, is that like, I also want it to be this like kind of abstract, intangible thing that is an ink blot for the listener to kind of look at and sort of write their own story built around it. It's made specifically, hopefully at least abstractly enough that like there are breadcrumbs of meaning that if you tie that lyric to that chord progression, you can tell your own story with it. But I wouldn't want that story to be my story, what I have in my head. I want that to, like I can tell, I can string things together. I always have ways of putting an album together and be like, I think the whole thing is about this, and there's narrative arc and blah blah blah. But I don't think that that would be as interesting if I just sort of spelled out my thought processes on it as it would be as if someone like sat down to listen to it and related it to their own life and their own experiences and told the story in their own head in a way that is nowhere near the way that I envisioned it to be. And I think that would be the most interesting thing and the most valuable thing someone could get from it. So that also puts a pin in it, like being a marketable thing. Cause I just like, can you please pay attention to this abstract thing that you might see yourself in if you invest an hour into it before I've even really given you a reason to? That's where I'm at.
Well, that's it. It's like, I think that, so there's two things. One, that you can have the Oz thing with, and I'm not saying that you can have as though I'm the purveyor or gatekeeper myself. I'm not. I note that I'm just noting what has been a thing in the past, and I gotta say, I think that the reason that prog rock and prog metal and all that, there was such an influx of it, and all of it was obsessed with like kings and queens and dragons and space opera and high fantasy, was because it's people that are creating a sort of mythology in and set in that wax so that they can have the same seat that you're looking for, which is, hey, look at Oz. I am not here to, I'm a whiz, great it, but I really would prefer the curtain. And then until they step out and it's like, that's their time to do it. But the music outside of that performance, that it's obviously like blurred lines a little bit because you do have to perform the thing live, but then you have like things like masks, costumes, etc. You can continue to really separate yourself from being seen, so to speak. I do think that it's very revealing though, because you said like, I'm not trying to be marketable. And that's really interesting because I actually think that hardcore and DIY punk historically has been some of the most marketing heavy stuff, precisely because it's alternative. It is an alternative to, how do you make something cool? Tell people that they can't have it, or that it's scarce, or that it's not really for most people. Immediately I'm intrigued. Like, hey, there's just like 10 of this record that's ever going to be produced and you probably don't want it. And I'm like, well, hold on. I don't pump the brakes. I'll be the judge of that. You know, like look at the entirety of hardcore. I mean, all of that was like, it was purposefully over saturated with nasty imagery, purposely incendiary material. Okay, all of that is to say is that I actually do think, and this is not an unpopular opinion whatsoever, I actually do think that the marketability of something exists whether or not we call it marketable, whether or not we can make a buck from it. I do think that you looking for more of the creation of an abstraction that can be then viewed sort of like, my God, help me out here. You know those little... Sorry, those little viewfinders that you know those.
I think that's what it is.
Little
Viewfinder. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what it was called? A viewfinder?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Where you have like the little disc and you kind of just click the thing and it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's like unlocking a childhood memory there. But
yeah, exactly. And what's great is that for anyone who's listening to this, good luck trying to figure that one out. But no, I hopefully provided enough detail to so almost like a kaleidoscope, but it's not. Anyway, you click through that. Whatever that person sees, though, they're going to interpret themselves anyway. Even if you were there reading to them, like if you were listening, explaining to them, no matter what, like we have that same thing of like the death of the author, you know, where it's like, yeah, once you put this out there, once you release it, you're done, man. Like you can influence it. You can try. You can work till the cows come home. Like you can do it, but it's just a fact of the matter of creation. So I wonder at, rather than focusing on marketability, I think like, why try to put it out there at all? I mean, it's like it sounds like a hostile question, but I promise you I ask it in good faith where it's like, Okay, well, if you didn't want people to listen, if you don't care about marketing it, why even put it out there at all? I want to ask that in a nicer way, but it's a difficult question.
That's understandable, and yeah, I've weighed that, and like you got to be like honest with yourself. Like if I was like truly an altruistic artist, that it would just like I make music for myself and that's it, and then I just hang on to it and make it again because I only make it for the creation process. Like if that was true, then I would do that. But that's not totally true. I do revel in the idea that it will be appreciated. That would be nice. I don't know. I like the idea of sharing it. I like it. I mean, I think that's part of the magic of it. Like if you're making music that feels like a feeling, I think like part of that transaction is that someone else other than the creator feels the feeling that the music sounds like it feels like, um, so that it feels like it's worked if you have translated it. It feels just like insulated in a box that hasn't been opened, if you just sort of keep it for yourself. So yeah, no, I absolutely would. Yeah, I wasn't trying to say I do not want it to be marketed. I was just saying I recognize why it's challenging to market it. Yes, I wish I had more like hooks to do that with. But I do, yeah, very honestly want it out there. I would like people to have the experience with it. I would like it to make people feel a way, be it happy, sad, or whatever you want. But I like the idea that it would communicate something to somebody else. So I absolutely do want it out there.
And I really appreciate you like taking that at face value, because it is a question that I always like to ask, because like it does set sort of like a baseline expectation, because like why else would we put it out there? It's like for writing,
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had written various short stories, and it's like I'm not going to put it out there. I don't want this to exist. But then
Mm-hmm.
eventually that changes, that shifts. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that Rick Rubin recently put out The Creative Act: A Way of Being, and having read it, I do think that one of the things that really stuck with me was the affirmation. The ultimate goal of art is the affirmation that you were here. You have a statement saying, "I was here." Whether you've graffitied a dick and balls on a bathroom stall, or a very ornately drawn name, you've put your mark. You know what I mean? I was here, and that's what I love about it, is that no matter what, it's not really about the marketability. Sure, if people really want to like boost the message, and they think that that external validation is going to bring something, which it almost always will not. That's the really sad truth, is that's why we keep losing people, because then once they've quote unquote made it, it's like, oh yeah, no, I still feel completely hollow and empty. Damn. Oh well. So and that's it, is like you are clearly a person that is already fulfilled with what you do. I'm curious now, in terms of that feeling that you're kind of going for, what are the most, I guess, what are the moments that you find the most transcendent or the most compelling as a person that both plays and enjoys music? Like, if you had to point to moments when you're performing, for example, what has been the most transcendent moment? What is the thing that has felt like, you know what I'm talking about? Like music, performed music is a communion. It truly is like a mass ritual, at least to my eye. But I'm overwrought, so I'm a little bit melodramatic. But you know what I'm talking about. So what does that look like for you when you are performing this?
I guess like in my lifetime of like being in bands, like the most like I've ever kind of felt it with an audience is probably like in my early days in like my like hardcore band, the Love and Terror Cult. There was a lot of like audience interplay in the classic hardcore sense of it, where we were getting wild, they were getting wild, and it was very like confrontational, and you're like physically shoving yourself into another person as you play, and then they're reciprocating and shoving back. So there's at least like this like feeling of you're feeling something, I'm feeling something, we're doing this together. So that's like probably the most I've ever felt it. As I've grown up and my bands have matured and audiences have as well, it's a lot harder to get any kind of like live feedback. Like I think you best is like that's kind of like what you hope for, and you might not notice that head nod as it goes by, because yeah, nobody's really shoving into me as I shoegaze about. But there's probably just as much honesty in that. I'm sure someone's enjoyed it in a moment, but they're not really expressing that to me very loudly in this day and age. So outside of that, the best kind of feedback you can get is online stuff. A nice YouTube comment. I guess that's how you know that someone is actually listening, and it meant something to them that day. I think that's yeah, the digital world's way of applauding you, I suppose.
Wouldn't it be interesting to like collide those worlds? I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a way for you to like have. I mean, forget YouTube, forget social media. Like, if there should, what always helps is having the feedback from a live show in the moment. Yes, but we know that in the moment is pretty. It's tough because sometimes I'm so lost, or have been so lost in that moment, that I don't see what's going on. I don't notice what's happening. For better or for worse, like I've performed to literally like three people, and I was somehow so lost in that it didn't matter whether they were like looking bored or looking terrified. They did look terrified eventually. That was the one where I put me right
It can
here,
be
and
terrifying.
yeah. Well, you were in a band literally called the Love and Terror Cult. So,
Yes, right.
and actually, what's really interesting is that in that lies the answer in a way. Funny enough, is that I do see bands now as being something of a cult. I'm going to couch that. I'm going to pause for just a second to say that I'm not endorsing in any way, shape, or form any occult behavior. But it, as a cult, you are getting a very small, insulated group to all adhere to some of the same activities and shared interests and beliefs. So I think that given what we've seen now, like the only remaining frontier to that remains unabused is like that connection with audience. And I appreciate that that's not like something that sounds dangerously like fan club shit, or the alternative, which is like just being one of those sycophantic tryhards, those craven like ass kissing brown nosers that are at shows. I 100% have been that person before, so I'm not gonna like pretend like I've never done that shit. I have been one of the worst, and good riddance to me not having any further future career in that space as an artist. Okay, great. Now that I've shadowed myself enough, let's move on to, I ask you, like, do you feel like you have an, maybe not interest, maybe that you have like a shared connection with people that can come up to you after a show and say like, that did something to me, that altered my fucking brain chemistry, like that I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life, that show, that event, that performance. How do you capture that? Like, how do you even qualify that?
I mean, that's the maybe happened like a handful of times where I've gotten into it with someone gushing like that. I think realistically, for some reason, I think I'm fairly unapproachable. I don't mean to be, guys. I'm not a mean person, but I feel like I'm the guy in the band that gets like ignored the hardest. Like I've noticed in our band, like Jen always is like telling me after shows, oh, someone came up to me, oh, they really enjoyed it, and I'm like, no, nobody talked to me, everybody avoided me. So for some reason I'm not the guy to share that with. But I've been in moments, I guess in other bands where like someone's just drunk off their ass and in one of those loops, but the loop is like how great your band was, and I'm like, oh, this is adorable, like annoying in another context, but like really soul fulfilling in the personal context I have right now. That at least it, even if you're drunk, it meant something to you. Um, but yeah, no, I've had the experience a couple times. I guess, like to your point about it uh, being cult like, I think it does sort of speak to the modern music landscape. Like, I do think that there is a bit of a tearing down of the monoculture and the mainstream to like all of these like side streams, which are just smaller. But I just think that that's the way that people are ingesting music these days. It's just picking tiny lanes and tiny niches, and the lanes and the niches aren't exploding like the grunge movement in the 90s, but they're just these little things, these little, like, yeah, like cults kind of makes it sound like that it's more of a big deal than it is, but it's just niches, just little lanes of people doing a thing. And then at least that there's some sort of like congregation around smaller deal things that can still sort of like inhabit their own space and have their own world without being just not the flavor of the month, so being nothing. Like, there everything has its little space, and there's just a thousand little niches, and everyone just sort of finds their own and kind of rolls with that. So I think that's pretty cool, even if it doesn't mean like, people are blowing up in every one of those niches. I think it's at least good that everyone's kind of doing their own thing rather than just uh, following one mainstream idea.
Well, you've been operating on the periphery of mainstream, not even periphery. I'd say you're operating on a desert island, like a completely separate thing for many, like pretty much your entire musical career. Like,
Yes.
and I will call it a career because, like, sorry, but you've been doing like how many years as a producer or sound engineer have you had under your belt?
I went to school in like 2006, and I guess I did a little bit before that, but I don't know, probably about like 20 years um, of recording, and I mean, being in bands, maybe like another 10, but like, I mean, that's going back to like being a 13-year-old doing like Nirvana covers, um, but yeah, so 20 years recording, 30 years playing music. I guess that's where I'm at. So it's a career. I don't know if you need to like make money to call something a career, but outside of that, then it has been a career.
Yeah, we definitely can call it a vocation.
Yes.
It's definitely it's it's part of your identity. I would say
Yes,
100%.
for sure. For sure.
How I'm getting the sense that I'm just extrapolating, which I shouldn't do. I should invite you to draw your own conclusions. So what I'll do is invite you to say whether you think it's important or not to have that be part of your identity in order to gain the most benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, I want it to be part of my identity. I think that there's a good, like, I think, like, like we have ourselves, and no shade if you're not in this umbrella, but like there's like your working self that you have to do to eat. And then there's your relaxing self, which is like the antithesis to that, which is sitting on the couch eating potato chips, which I do enjoy from time to time. But then like those can those could be your whole world. That could be it. And no shade if it is. But I think it's good having a third, like a thing that's not you have to survive, and you're just vegging because you're sick of the other thing. Like it feels good to have a thing that feels like you're doing a good thing. Like, and that could be absolutely anything. Maybe you have plants. I don't know, like just any other thing that isn't the two first things. So that's been my third thing, and I like it. And I mean, I'm glad that I'm at least existing in that space, because I think it would be easy not to. And it makes me feel good that there's that, and then there's a result of it. Like I've made records over the years, and I can look back at them, and they're there. So yeah, I'm glad there's a third thing. So that's I guess that's where I see that.
That's interesting that you put it that way, because it feels like, I don't know why this reminds me of this, but there's the act of creation. So like, with us at V13, like there's 13 V's, but the first three are like the kind of like the proper sort of trinity of thoughts that we have: Vita, Veritas, Vox Populi. Vox Populi is the thing that we're talking about here, because like the other two are, you know, life, truth, and expression. I mean, voice of the people is like aspirational, but it's also like speaking to a third thing that we have. We have an innate sense of, we're drawn to it, like it's just almost a biological imperative, practically. And when the way that you're talking about it, like this third thing, which is super interesting, because we do have this desire to create, to have created something, or be in a role where we are helping, which can feel creative as opposed to destructive, right? Which is so funny, because I actually think of like the amount of times that we've destroyed something in the making of it, hence the name of the show, Make Break. Kind of like the tension between those things, or the ridiculous interplay between them. So for you, it's very much a third thing. And I think that's fascinating, because we are so focused on the reward in and of itself, is something that you very much adhere to and subscribe to. And I think for anyone listening to this right now, I wonder what you could impart, if you could share some of that, if you could sprinkle some of that fairy dust on someone and just have them gain more from what they do. How would you put that? If that is something you want to do, it would be very challenging to think that you would suddenly go, "Oh no, I don't want to help anyone else with that. They can go fuck themselves." Like,
I guess the way that I'm like thinking and like framing it is like, if we are in those three camps where there's the money, and then the relaxing, and then the creation, I think that we can kind of look at the world through rose colored glasses and just be like, what if the third thing was also the first thing? Like, what if the thing I did to create was also the thing I did to make money? And yeah, that would be great. So would winning the lottery. But I think if you're putting too much importance on that, you're kind of negating the value of the third thing as its own thing. Like, it's like, if that isn't valuable in and of itself, if it's only valuable if you've turned it into the first thing and you get to quit your job so that you can just create all day, like, if it's nothing without that, then you've kind of missed the point. And I don't mean to even just sort of speak down on other people on that. I need to remind myself of that. Like, sometimes my brain goes into that place too, where I'm just like, I don't want to do the first thing anymore. I just want to do the third thing. But that's, kind of selfish, and, get over yourself. They're separate. That's just the way it is. But anyway, I'm just saying that it, just see it for the value that it has in and of itself, without trying to ascend it to a higher place. Like, you're doing it because you need to do something to have an outlet and a release on that end, and that is what the value of it is. And it's not going to suddenly become more valuable because you get to stop doing the first thing. And I guess that's where I would take that.
I think that is the perfect place to end off, because
Okay.
I literally, it's funny, like that is, no, I really mean it. Like, that is such a great piece of insight for someone who is so, and I've fallen prey to this for the longest time. I've been very much like in pursuit of like, I have to make something of this, I have to break down these bad habits of mine and these useless, idle thoughts and patterns, and I need to make something great. But then you are deviating from the basic reality that's inherent, which is if you're going to put pressure on this thing, you're going to smother it, and there's going to be no heat of any kind that you're going to be able to gain from it. There's no comfort whatsoever. So I thank you for that one, because this has been actually a really great reminder for me as well. I'm hoping for others as well,
Yeah.
because like there's so much like hustle culture, and there's
Mhm.
so much like drive to be like, bro, I gotta like get this thing going. Like, do we need to make this friggin' happen? And it's like, do you? Because I mean, are you happy doing this if no one ever hears it? Are you happy to do this toiling in obscurity for 10, 20 years with like would you be okay with that? And that's, I think, a question that you've kind of presented to me, which overall, like, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but like, I love that. Thank you. I really, like, bottom of my heart, love talking to you. I'm loved
It's
that we got
been
to talk
been
about this
nice.
specifically.
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, one of the most exciting like trajectories I've been seeing. I know that you've been like totally trying to undersell it. I call bullshit. I'm seeing what you guys are doing and I'm loving it. And I've listened to the new album, and hmm, people are in for a treat. Thank you so much for joining me today. Honestly, it has been amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Colin.
great.
And
It's been great talking to you as well.